You. Yeah, you. The one sitting there with 100 tabs open and a heart that won't sit still. Maybe you're not even sure why you clicked this. Maybe something in you just whispered, I need something to shift. Well, this is it. Not a hype session, not a dopamine hit. This is a conversation. A reminder that you were not born to drift. Not made for mediocrity. Not put here just to tick boxes and be agreeable. There's something in you, something strong, stubborn, luminous, that's been waiting to wake up. And the world, it's not going to do that for you. You have to do it. Now. The truth is, somewhere deep down, you've known all along that this life, this exact one you've been given, is meant to be lit up. It's meant to be bold, messy, fully lived. And if no one's ever told you that, let me be the first. You are not here to shrink. You are not here to disappear. You are here to ignite. They gave you the script early on, didn't they? Be good, keep your head down, don't make waves, stay in line, get it right, be nice, be useful. We learned to shrink ourselves, to shapeshift, to keep things smooth, tidy, palatable. But somewhere along the way, we lost track of something vital. The truth. And here it is. No one's coming to hand you your greatness. It doesn't work that way. The people we admire most, the ones who changed things, they didn't wait to be chosen. They chose themselves. They were the ones who refused to stay asleep. That refusal, that's what you feel tugging at you right now. That's the ember. It's still in there, and it's time to feed it. You don't need more time. You need a decision. You don't need permission. You need to remember. Remember what it feels like to believe in something again. To get your hands dirty in the work that matters. To make the leap even if the landing isn't guaranteed. Muhammad Ali once said, I hated every minute of training, but I said, don't quit. Suffer now and live the rest of your life as a champion. Les Brown, he said, you gotta be hungry. This isn't about hype. It's about reclaiming your center, the you that doesn't apologize for wanting more, because more is possible. And yes, it's necessary. You were meant to stretch, to fall, to learn, and to rise again, each time stronger. Let's talk about the messy middle. The quiet moments when you're trying to keep it together, when you show up even though you feel hollow, when you keep going even though no one's clapping. That's the part no one really posts about. The mental spiral, the failed attempts, the why am I doing this, the am I crazy, the silence of it all. But you know what? That's the forge. That's where strength is made. Not in the spotlight. but in the shadows, when you're tired, when you're scared, and you choose to keep walking anyway. Champions are born in the dark, in the practice, in the 1,000 tiny unseen choices every day to not give up. You don't need to sprint. You just need to keep walking. And let's be clear. The fire that gets you started is not the same one that keeps you going. You have to tend it, feed it, protect it, even when the flame disappears and all you see is smoke. Because the world has a way of trying to dim your flames. But your job is to burn bright anyway. You want to feel powerful again? Stop treating discipline like punishment. Discipline is devotion. It's not about perfection. It's about remembering who the hell you are. Every time you show up for your craft, your body, your healing, your purpose, you're teaching yourself something vital. That you are trustworthy. You don't need to hustle harder. You need to align, to cut what drains you, to protect what lifts you, to build your life around what's real, not just what looks good. Say it out loud if you have to. I'm not here to perform. I'm here to rise. Because that's what you're doing. Right now, bit by bit, breath by breath. As Viktor Frankl wrote, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And that's where true power begins. One day, someone will ask, "What did you do with your life?" And you'll have an answer. Not in your words, but in the ripple you left behind. The people you lifted, the fire you reignited, the quiet bravery that no one noticed, but mattered more than you know. Your legacy isn't some far-off thing. It's being written right now. In your habits, your decisions, your daily courage. You don't have to be famous. You don't need a following. You just need to be real, present, awake, unafraid to walk your path, even when it's uphill and no one understands why you're still climbing. Your life is not about what you accumulate. It's about what you activate in others. You want to know the secret? It was never out there. Not in this video, not in a book, not in a course. It's you. You're the secret. You're the one who gets to decide what this life becomes. You're the one who keeps showing up even when the doubt is loud. You're the one who's still standing. And now, you move. You build. You speak. You burn away the noise and you make space for something extraordinary. This is not the beginning of something small. This is your rise. So go. Go louder, go bolder, go all in, because this is your story, your chapter, your chance. There's a moment in every journey, quiet, raw, unglamorous, where no one's watching and no applause is coming. It's just you sitting across from yourself, and the question is clear. Will you keep going? Not in the big ways, the grand gestures, the bold declarations, but in the small, brutal, unseen moments when everything in you says stop. That's the battlefield. That's where the war is won. And like you, I've also fought there. Not with swords or medals, but with silence, with doubt, with the part of me that whispers, this is simply too hard work. I've sat at my table and waged war on myself. I've stared down walls I built with my own hands, walls of fear, perfectionism, hesitation, and I've said, no more. Because it's hard to live with my mistakes, with my wrong turns. The weight bears down heavy, crushing, but somehow I have to find the strength to carry on. I raised the wall, and I will be the one to knock it down. See, we spend so much of our lives trying to control the external. What's out there, what people think, what they say, what doors they open or close for us. But the truth is, the most important work you'll ever do is internal. Because the monsters out there, they don't scare me anymore. I've met the real monster. I meet him every day. He lives in my hesitation, in my second guessing, in my excuses. And still, I seek him. I chase him down because every time I defeat him, something in me changes. Every time I show up when I don't feel like it. Every time I move forward in the face of fear. Every time I resist the temptation to quit. I become more of who I'm meant to be. That's what people don't tell you about greatness. It's not found in victories. It's forged in refusal. Refusing to shrink, refusing to hide, refusing to let the moment pass while you sit behind the barricades you built to stay safe. You can train your body, you can sharpen your skill, but nothing is more powerful than training your mind to say, this is hard, and I'm doing it anyway. Because life doesn't get easier, it gets louder, it gets messier. And if you don't train for the noise, if you don't prepare for the chaos, you get swept away by it. So build your resolve, not when things are falling apart, but when they're still holding together. You go out to run, even when you don't want to. You face the discomfort, even when it's easier to avoid it. You sweat and suffer and stretch yourself, not because the world is demanding it right now, but because you know the world eventually will. And when it does, you'll be ready. You don't just defeat monsters to defeat monsters. You defeat them so that the next time life throws one your way, you don't flinch. Because you've seen them before. You've destroyed worse. Because the storm doesn't scare you, it reminds you of who you are. And yeah, you'll make mistakes. You'll build the very walls you'll later have to tear down. You'll armor up with defenses that for a while protect you, but later only trap you. You'll say things you didn't mean. You'll stay when you should have left. You'll leave when you should have stayed. You'll wait when you should have moved. But all of that, it's still yours. Your mistakes, your wall, your life. And that means you hold the power, no one else. You raise the wall, you will be the one to knock it down. So next time fear shows up, next time the weight feels unbearable, next time that voice whispers, this isn't worth it, you'll smile, because you've been here before, and you've survived worse. You'll remember that every finish line you've crossed was built of thousands of invisible moments. Moments like this, where you didn't feel like showing up, but you did anyway. Where your tired feet kept moving. Where your trembling hands still reached. Where your mind said no, but your soul said yes. This is not just motivation. This is identity. You've earned the right to call yourself a fighter, because you didn't just fight battles, you went looking for them. You didn't just overcome adversity, you outgrew it. You didn't just hang on, you turned hanging on into a personal brand of rebellion. You stared down the part of you that said, "You're not enough," and replied, "Watch me." This is your world. You're a pretender no more. No longer ruled by fear. No longer guided by the illusion of safety. Your weapon is your focus. Let it sharpen you. Let it teach you. Let it elevate you. There'll be days when you sit at the table again, where the weight of your own expectations feels too heavy, where the self-sabotage, the doubt, the old ghosts try to rise. And when that happens, don't wait for permission. Don't wait for clarity. Don't wait for certainty. Just face down the monsters. Put your hands on the wall, feel the cracks, the seams, and say the words, "I raised this wall, and I will be the one to knock it down." I have to say something, and I won't sugarcoat it. I'm seeing something in the world right now that disturbs me deeply, about my fellow men, about our souls, about how far we've drifted. We're insulated from our true nature, numbed, compliant, caged. And if we don't wake up soon, we'll forget we were ever wild to begin with. We'll forget that nature is who we are, that we have roots which stretch deep down into the earth. Spring is turning the season. There is this fresh life in the air, a beauty that pulls you deeper. The trees blaze a raw primary green right now, which will soon deepen in fullness as the summer progresses. This isn't only rebirth, it's the cycle of transformation that we have the honor of experiencing every year. But I sit on a bus, and 80% of the guys around me are glued to their glowing screens, not noticing, not breathing all the life in, like drones, shackled to a flat culture of digital noise and algorithmic identity. And I think, is this it? Is this what manhood has become? A few years ago, I went on a retreat, a week in a field in a tiny tent with no electricity, no screens, and no noise, except the wind and the fire. We rose to the sound of a gong before dawn. We meditated in freezing silence, the air visible on every breath. At night, we gathered around the fire with no talk and no music, just the moon, the stars, the flames, and our own thoughts for company. The wood smoke seeped into our clothes, our skin, our bones, and something came alive. I remembered who I was, who we all are. Here's the thing. We've only lived in cities and behind screens for the blink of an eye. For the vast sweep of human evolution, we were wild. We were hunter-gatherers. We walked barefoot with the earth beneath us and the sky above. We knew the pulse of life in our veins. And now we've traded all that for Wi-Fi and Instagram likes. We've become compliant, overstimulated, undernourished shells of who we really are and who we could be. And so we scroll and obey, hoping someone else will fix the mess, still too afraid to say, enough. We ghost our own discomfort. We're terrified of silence, of solitude, of facing the truth in front of us, facing the bare bones of life. The Buddhists say everything conditioned is impermanent. What's certain is that you will die. What's uncertain is the time of your death. Could be tonight. Could be 60 years from now. But let that truth hit you. Don't flinch. Don't look away. Feel it. Sit in it. Let it burn away everything false. Because when you finally stop running from death, you start to live. You stop obsessing over text messages to Tinder dates who won't respect you. You stop trying to perform your way into people's affection. You stop hiding behind fashion labels and filtered photos. As Tyler Durden said, you are not your job. You're not how much money you have in the bank. You are not the car you drive. And you are not your car keys. You are not what you've been sold. You are a child of the wilderness. A being made for fire and storm and the open sky. You are built to feel, to risk, to face down the unknown. So let me ask you, when was the last time you stared at the stars until you felt small enough to cry and alive enough to howl? When did you last sweat in the lodge, jump in the icy lake, light the fire, and walk alone without a map? When did you last sit in silence without numbing, distracting, escaping? Look, I'm not here to preach minimalism or monkhood. I'm not asking you to abandon society, but I am asking you to be awake. Because the modern world will give you every tool to avoid waking up, to avoid yourself. It'll hand you screens, substances, validation and noise. It'll sell you everything except for soul. And most of us are buying it. I spoke to a friend the other day who said he's never slept in a tent for one single night in his whole life. That's not shameful, but it is kind of tragic, because something primal is waiting for you in the darkness of the forest. Something real is waiting in the wind, in the cold, in the wild. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's vulnerable. But discomfort is not your enemy. Discomfort is your return ticket. This moment right here is all you'll ever have. So stop trying to please everyone. Stop auditioning for love. Stop waiting to be chosen. Choose yourself. Choose now. And stop chasing some future fantasy of happiness that's just another distraction in disguise. Nothing lasts. No thing will complete you. Clothes fade, muscles shrink, tech gets outdated, your latest social media status will instantly be forgotten. But presence, that stays. Courage, that echoes. And wonder keeps you human. William Blake said, "He who binds himself to joy does the winged life destroy. But he who kisses joy as it flies lives in eternity's sunrise." So maybe today is the day you kiss joy as it flies. Maybe you sit still for once and feel what's really there. Maybe you put down the phone and let the wild back in. Feel the earth, smell the fire smoke, breathe in your own mortality like oxygen. Because only then, when we remember that we were built for firelight and truth, for solitude and wonder, for grief and gratitude, only then do we really come alive. The world doesn't need more perfect men, it needs more present men. More real, more raw, more grounded. This is your invitation, to remember who you are, to return to the wind, the ocean, the mountains, and the forest, and to live every single day like you mean it. Have you ever realized you've been sitting in the same room for years without meaning to? Not literally, I mean mentally, emotionally, spiritually. The same patterns, the same doubts, the same old tired conversations with yourself about how someday you'll finally do the thing. And if we're going to speak some straight truth here, you knew the room was getting stale. You felt it months ago. maybe years ago. That dull hum behind your eyes, that low-grade ache in your chest, that fog in your gut when someone asks how you're doing and you say, "Yeah, I'm good," but you're not. You're restless, you're stuck, you're performing stability, and the worst part is, it's comfortable, probably painful, but familiar. And most people would rather sit in familiar pain than face unfamiliar freedom. Because at least in here, you know where the walls are. You know what to expect. Even if what you're expecting is slow, quiet suffering. But that's the trap, isn't it? Thinking that the pain we understand is safer than freedom that we don't understand. That's what the Buddha meant when he said craving leads to suffering. This doesn't just apply to craving things or just craving pleasure, but also to craving certainty, predictability, control. So you learn how to decorate the room. You hang your certificates, you post your highlight reel, you say the right things. You keep yourself busy so you don't have to sit still long enough to hear your own voice whisper, "Is this it?" You tell yourself not to complain. You've got a decent life, but that voice in you, that wild part, that honest part, it knows. You weren't made for maintenance. You weren't built to be agreeable. You weren't put here just to die with a clean resume and a tidy reputation. And somewhere deep in the heart of you, you know that too. Let's not dress it up. Stepping out of your comfort zone, it's not an inspirational quote and it's not a vision board. It looks like telling the truth when your voice shakes. It looks like walking away from things that no longer fit, even if they once did. It looks like disappointing people who had you filed under a version of you you've outgrown. And you know what's harder than taking a risk? Staying in a version of your life that makes you feel invisible. Dying a slow death by repetition. Mistaking routine for identity. But one thing Buddhism teaches that almost no one else wants to hear is the truth of impermanence. Nothing stays the same. Nothing. So the room you're clinging to, it's already dissolving. You're just holding on to the idea of it. And that idea, that illusion, is what causes you suffering. No one's coming to push you out the door. You keep waiting for a sign, a signal, a spiritual permission slip, but you're the one holding the key. You've always had it. That edge you're afraid of, that's not the end, that's the beginning. That's where the ego starts to burn away and something real gets born. That's where you stop trying to become someone and start remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. It's not about being fearless. It's about saying enough. Enough pretending, enough performance, enough waiting for perfect clarity. Clarity comes after the step, not before. Sometimes the most radical thing you can say is, "I don't want to live like this anymore." And then follow that sentence with a single, shaky step. Will it be messy? Yeah. Will you lose things? Yeah, of course. But everything you've ever loved, you've also lost or will lose. That's not cynical. That's just truth. You can't keep it all, so choose what matters and flow. Choose what's alive, even if it's unknown. In fact, especially if it's unknown. Because when you cling to what's fading, you suffer. But when you loosen your grip, when you let go, not out of defeat but out of trust, you remember how to move again. Comfort zones don't protect you. They numb you. They make you forget that life is breath and change and movement. They build you a nice little prison and ask you to decorate the walls. But the locks are on the inside. So if your life doesn't fit anymore, change it. Even if it feels scary and you have no idea what comes next. In fact, especially if you have no idea what comes next. That's the path, that's the Dharma. Let go, step in, pay attention. You don't need to be fearless and you don't need to be sure. You just need to stop gaslighting yourself into thinking this version of you is all that there is. You know how to play small. You've rehearsed it, mastered it. Now, my friend, it's time to learn something new. Learn how to walk into rooms where your doubt follows you, but let your truth lead you. Learn how to let the script fall apart. Not to replace it with another story, but to stop mistaking these old stories for identity. Learn how to sit in the not knowing without flinching, because that's where your life lives, right there, in the space between who you've been and who you're becoming. So yeah, it'll be uncomfortable, but discomfort isn't the enemy, it's the teacher. Ask any monk who sat through the itch of stillness. Ask anyone who stared down the craving and said, I see you, but I won't feed you today. You want more? Then show up like someone who's tired of playing it safe, even if your hands shake, even if your voice cracks, even if the door scares the hell out of you. You'll figure it out as you walk. That's how this works. So it's time to get out of the room. You know it. I know it. And the version of you haven't met yet, the one who breathes deeper, walks lighter, lets go faster, they're already outside, smiling, waiting, not trying to convince you, just showing you what's possible. So stop pacing, turn the handle, and step into what comes next. Have you ever had a dream so big, so raw, it kept you awake at night? Not just a nice idea, but a calling. Something that sets your heart on fire, even as it scares you to death. And then the next morning comes, the alarm goes off, and that dream, well, it slips back into the shadows. Because fear loves the daylight. Most of us have felt it. That tug, that vision, that thing which feels like it was placed in you and only you. And yet when we try to move towards it, we freeze. Goethe said, whatever you can do or dream, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. And I believe that. Boldness starts with a step, and stepping into the unknown, that's where everything changes. So why don't we begin? Let's be honest, comfort. It's seductive, isn't it? It wraps around you like a warm blanket, feels safe at first, but stay there long enough and it starts to smother your fire. We're addicted to ease, to safety, to the illusion of control. But let me tell you something. The constant pursuit of comfort is killing your dream. You weren't built to just exist. You were made to blaze, to set the world on fire with your passion, your purpose. I've been there. Not long ago, I took a turn I thought was sensible. I set up an artist management agency. I'd been a singer, a performer. I loved that life, but it was a grind. Bills, stress, uncertainty. So I thought maybe it's time to move behind the scenes. Be practical. Be stable. And on paper, I was being stable. But inside I was wilting. I'd lie there in the mornings sometimes, staring at the ceiling, not just tired, but empty. Like something vital in me had dimmed. And then I'd step back on stage, and something lit up. My purpose, my voice, my life. It was like throwing petrol on a dying flame. But the thing is, knowing what lights you up doesn't make it easy. You still have to face the resistance. Stephen Pressfield talks about it in The War of Art, that invisible force that rises up every time you try to do something meaningful. It whispers, "Who are you to speak?" Who do you think you are to matter? It does everything it can to sidetrack you, to distract you, to keep you from starting your task. And I'll admit, it got me too. When I walked into my first public speaking club meeting back in October 2018, I didn't want to speak. I wanted to get the hell out of there. My knees were shaking, my palms were ice, but I gave that first little improvised speech, and afterwards I felt that glow. You know the one I mean, the feeling of doing the thing you were meant to do, even just a little, even just once. And every time I pushed past that resistance, the fire inside me grew. So here's what I want you to know. There's a fire in you, right now, that wants to flame higher. Not someday, not when the timing's better, now. And you don't have to know the whole path, you just have to take that first step. Because the moment you do, you become someone different. You become energy in motion. And movement, that's where the magic lives. I don't just see a person when I think of you listening to this. I see a star, a galaxy, a dream that is waiting to break through into reality. So what is it for you? That thing that you keep putting off, that whisper in the quiet, that melody you've never played out loud, that sentence you've never spoken. The resistance will tell you to wait for clarity, wait for confidence, but I'm telling you, don't. Don't wait for the fear to go away. Don't wait for permission. Act. Now. Send the email. Make the phone call. Book the room. Speak the words. Do it the moment this video ends, before the resistance creeps back in, before your fire dims again. Write down what you did in the comments section below and tell me how it felt to do it. Yeah, it's scary. Yes, it's uncomfortable. But let me tell you this. The greatest risk you can take is to risk nothing at all. Because once you step into your fire, once you move towards your dream, everything will change. And when you look back, you'll wonder, why did I wait so long?